There is a moment before dawn when the world still holds its breath, when the streets lie empty and the phones are silent, when no one demands anything from you. In that narrow slice of time you stand alone with your thoughts and the choice of who you will become. In that forgotten hour the true architects of history ignite their transformation, not with fanfare or applause, but with a morning ritual born of discipline. They rise before the sun touches the horizon because they have discovered that in the quiet of early morning lives the force that shapes destiny. While most cling to comfort beneath their sheets, the successful are already sculpting their day with intention, knowing the future belongs to those who arrive early and seize control. If these words reach something inside you, if they stir a restlessness in your soul, then honor this moment. Do not delay. Subscribe now, join this community of minds committed to discipline, clarity, and achievement, and prepare yourself. What follows will challenge how you think, how you act, and how you live. Chapter 1: The secret lies in the first hour. Most awaken with a sense of panic, jolted from sleep to dash through a routine of shower, coffee, and hurried steps into an already lost day. They live in reactive mode, forever chasing time they no longer command, handing their destiny over to chance. Yet there exists a quiet, almost invisible group who rise not to race but to build, who understand that the power of the first hour is non-negotiable. Napoleon Hill observed this pattern among the most successful of his era, a deliberate morning routine, simple yet executed with presence, framing the mind before the world demands answers. He taught that in those first few minutes the mind is tender, receptive, a fertile field where every thought planted takes root. To rise early is more than punctuality, it is identity. It proclaims to the world and to yourself that you are in command and refuse to be carried by the unruly currents of life. In that simple act a new archetype is born, the achiever. Today is your day to begin differently. Do not rise with haste but with resolve. Look at the clock not as a judge but as a tool, each minute a brick in the foundation you are laying. You do not wake early to prove yourself to others, you wake to remind yourself of who you are becoming. Benjamin Franklin began his mornings by asking a single question: what good shall I do today? And that question guided his every action. He did not awaken on autopilot, he rose with intention, and that invisible force fueled his accomplishments. Each morning offers the chance to realign thought, emotion, and action toward what truly matters. Tomorrow will not be a stage for urgencies, it will be your laboratory of decisions, where you determine whether you or external chaos takes the reins. Wasting this moment is like discarding your sword before the battle. No matter who you are, a student, an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone striving to change your life, your advantage is not talent, connections, or resources. Your advantage is how you begin the day. Win the battle over yourself at dawn, and the rest becomes simpler. You need not meditate for 2 hours or fill your schedule to the brim, you need consistency, a small ritual that cements your identity. Write your goals, read something that elevates you, breathe deeply for 5 minutes, or simply rise at your set time without negotiation. The method matters less than the commitment. And in honoring that commitment daily you transform how you see yourself, you become someone reliable, someone who keeps promises, and that self-image grows into the roots of unwavering self-confidence. Begin small, but begin now. Set your alarm, place your phone across the room, rise at the first ring, sit at the edge of your bed and breathe. Remember what you are building. Each morning conquered is a vote of confidence in your future. When laziness creeps in, and it will, recall Napoleon Hill's teaching: you can be master of your destiny or slave to circumstances, and that choice flickers at the moment you decide to rise or remain in darkness. You cannot control what the world brings today, but you can control how you begin, and that silent, disciplined beginning can change everything, one day at a time, one morning at a time, one habit at a time. Chapter 2: The ritual that the wealthy and accomplished never forego. Discipline is not merely about waking early, it is about what you do with the time you claim. Too many who rise before dawn still fall prey to obligations, unread messages, and the world's noise. The truly successful guard their first hour as liquid gold. They do not start with news or social media, they start with themselves. In that sacred hour, the world has yet to invade, and they sculpt their minds like a sculptor shapes marble. Every gesture is intentional, every habit a building block. What do the truly successful do upon waking? First, they move their bodies. Motion is the sign of life. When you awaken, your body must come alive, and with it, your mind. It need not be a marathon or an intense workout, a stretch, a few deep breaths, a brisk walk, yet it must disrupt inertia. Physical stillness breeds mental stagnation. Napoleon Hill noted that the great leaders of history cultivated vitality as part of their routine. They did not inherit energy, they generated it. They breathed fresh air, got the blood flowing, and declared silently, "I am in control." Exercise is an unspoken testament to the strength of your will. Conquer sluggishness at 6 a.m., and you'll have the fortitude to overcome procrastination at noon. Next, they nourish the mind with purpose, not distractions, but direction. The successful feed on ideas that expand their vision, on content reinforcing their focus, on reflections anchoring their values. A passage from a book, a sentence from a mentor, a phrase jotted in a purpose journal, this is morning nourishment. In those first moments, your mind is an open field, what you plant there will sprout throughout the day. You have felt how a single idea encountered at dawn can reshape your entire day. It steers your choices, bolsters your patience, strengthens your resolve. Therefore, do not let mental nutrition be left to chance. Feed your mind with the same urgency as you feed your body. Then, they write their goals. Writing is the act of materializing. By inscribing your ambitions, you signal to your subconscious that they are real. The wealthy and the wise do not keep their goals floating in the ether. They write, repeat, visualize each morning, not for show, but to internalize what is non-negotiable. Morning goal writing is not wishing for miracles but accepting responsibility. It affirms, this is my path. And in the repetition, your identity shifts. What once seemed distant becomes familiar, and what is familiar becomes possible. Hill emphasized that conscious repetition is the most underrated tool in turning ordinary people into extraordinary ones. By repeating a thought with emotion and consistency, you program your mind, starting with the simple act of writing your goals at dawn. They cultivate silence. In a world fixated on stimuli, silence is luxury. The successful understand that clarity resides in quiet. Hence many leaders reserve a few minutes for complete stillness, some meditate, some simply breathe, some pray. The format varies, the principle remains, calm the internal noise before the external cacophony begins. This silence is not wasted time but the interval in which thoughts align, intuition speaks, emotional readiness forms. 5 minutes of deep silence are worth more than 50 mindless messages. A disciplined mind is not one that never wanders but one that knows how to return to center, and that skill is forged in morning quiet. These simple, constant practices are the bedrock of morning discipline. They are not secret formulas but anchors, statements of identity. Performed daily, they become part of who you are, because ultimately you become what you repeat. You need not adopt every practice at once, choose one, make it sacred, and repeat until the world is compelled to recognize your discipline. Chapter 3, Silent Identity, the discipline no one sees. Discipline is what you live, not what you show. True discipline thrives in the unseen details, the alarm you do not dismiss, the book you read while others sleep, the promise you keep without an audience. The real power emerges in solitude, when you do right without witnesses, honor your word without demand. Those silent steps outpace the applause seekers because while they perform, you become. Napoleon Hill spoke of a mind so fortified it refuses to bend to circumstances. That fortification is not innate, it is built by daily morning rituals executed with faith and resolve. Yesterday's failure matters not, today's return to your practice is victory. In the silence of repetition, your new identity takes root. A daily habit reinforces, I am this person now, and over time it infiltrates every part of life, speech, decisions, thought patterns. You are no longer acting, you are thinking like someone who has already won. But beware, the world will resist. Old habits, pressures, chaotic routines will tell you there is no time or need for this practice. That is the crucible where your true self is tested. Discipline shows itself not when circumstances are easy but when they fight back. Those who build empires, financial, creative, spiritual, or familial, learn to honor discipline above fleeting emotion. They do not wake expecting motivation, they wake with purpose, and purpose is stronger than any momentary lull. Remember the countless times you started and stopped, the goals born in fervor and forgotten by morning. That happens when the old identity still holds power. The turning point is when you declare, I am this new version, even before results appear, and you act accordingly. Then the magic happens, not because the universe conspires, but because you conspire with your own truth. Your frequency shifts, your posture shifts, and the world responds. But before it does, you must sustain the practice, no applause, no immediate return. In the soil of delayed results, character is forged. Discipline is a seed growing in darkness. Darkness is not failure but preparation, the time when roots strengthen before flowers bloom. Most give up too soon because they do not understand that the invisible builds the visible. The habits unseen undergird public success. Whenever you rise early and honor your silent routine, feel pride, for in that instant you are crafting a foundation no one can steal. You are cementing your self-trust, and that is the cornerstone of real confidence. Do not underestimate small gestures, a mindful glass of water, 5 minutes of focused reading, conscious breathing, the silent writing of goals. Each seems minor, yet together they form the stones of your identity's fortress. When sabotaging thoughts whisper that nothing is working, smile, for you know what most still ignore. The greatest builders began their work in shadows and stayed there until the world was forced to notice. Chapter 4. The first step ensures the next. Have you noticed how the earliest minutes of morning carry the power to shape everything that follows? A well-conducted morning, simple though it may be, shifts your stance toward challenges. It not only prepares you, it positions you, declaring without words that you are in control. That positioning echoes through every decision thereafter. Morning discipline is not an isolated practice but the first domino in a chain that pushes all the rest into place. When you awaken and perform your ritual, you tell your mind, today, we follow the plan, and your mind begins to align. Most start in disorder and stay in disorder. They concede the bed, then the phone, then tardiness, then panic, then apathy, a chain reaction of reaction. The good news is that chain can be reversed. Begin with decision, focus, clarity, and you establish a new pattern. You plant order where hesitation once reigned. In that state, your mind organizes, your body obeys, your emotions balance. You do tasks not merely to finish them, but to bring presence to them. Napoleon Hill said, a man who starts his day with purpose carries within him the power to bend time. And indeed, that is what happens. You become more productive not because you do more but because you do better, because you act with intention, not impulse, because you know what you want to build and do not distract yourself with what does not serve. Here lies a secret overlooked by those in reactive mode. The day need not be managed from outside in, it can be led from inside out, beginning with your first minutes. You set the tempo, the energy, the order. This discipline is born not from perfection but from commitment. It is not a flawless 2-hour ritual but a refusal to fail yourself at the first step. That first step, taken with conviction, creates an internal structure that shields you from external chaos. Imagine a warrior sharpening his sword not on the battlefield but beforehand in solitude and discomfort. That is where victory is won, not in war but in preparation. Your morning is your training ground, where you become stronger than anxiety, quicker than procrastination, wiser than impulse. You have felt it. On days you begin well, even difficulties feel more manageable, negative emotions less likely to control you. That is because you positioned yourself first, seizing ownership before the world claimed it, and that stance yields a silent effect. You begin making better choices throughout the day, you learn to say no more firmly, you protect your time with greater awareness, you choose your words, your food, your thoughts more wisely, and it all began with a single act, rising at your appointed hour and honoring your ritual. Morning discipline is the launch pad of self-leadership, and self-leadership is the first step toward any true success. He who does not command himself will be commanded by circumstances, and circumstances rarely have compassion. Remember, the day does not wholly belong to you, but the first hour does. If you master that hour, you have already won, you have positioned yourself, you have remembered who you are and why you came. That daily reminder, kept in silence, takes root and when winds of doubt blow, anchors your resolve. So begin each day with this silent pact, a pact with your vision, an inescapable commitment to your own greatness. And never forget, while the world sleeps, the strong awake, and while the world runs, the wise are already prepared, for they began early. Chapter 5, When Discipline Becomes Natural. You can force a habit for days, you can sustain motivation for weeks, but only when discipline becomes part of your identity does effort become light. When your morning practice ceases to be a chore and becomes who you are, everything shifts. Rising early, clearing your mind, nourishing body and soul no longer require internal debate, because you understand that discipline does more than help you build, it shapes the builder. Most wait for desire before acting, but those who evolve reverse the order. They act until desire takes hold, they persist until the habit transitions from struggle to rhythm, until waking early is no longer a goal but a reflex. This transformation does not occur at once, it unfolds by repetition, when you stop bargaining with your old self and decide unwaveringly that regardless of your mood, discipline comes first. In that repetition you become unshakable. Consider how many mornings you wanted to quit, how many times your bed tempted you to stay, how many excuses your mind offered to break the ritual, and yet you rose and did what needed doing, perhaps without will but with resolve. That resolve builds something far deeper than productivity, it builds self-respect. You begin to see yourself differently. You trust yourself more, and that trust reverberates through every area. You stand firmer in relationships, speak more assertively at work, act in alignment with your values, because in silence you have cultivated genuine self-esteem, the kind born from congruence between word and deed. Napoleon Hill said the greatest success begins with victory over oneself, and that victory happens in the first hours of the day, when the world slumbers, when the choice is yours alone, when no one can know if you rose or not, and it is there that you win. Each invisible victory, repeated day after day, builds something no one can steal from you, character. Discipline is not about flaunting results but about sustaining rituals. Results will come, not as goals but as byproducts of your identity. They will emerge as reflections of the person you have forged in the silence of discipline. When this new way of living takes hold, you realize you need very little to live excellently. You become selective, protect your time, choose your words mindfully, honor your mental space, and most importantly, carry a rare serenity, the serenity of someone who knows they are fulfilling their purpose. You trust the process, move with less hurry but more intent, compare yourself less and dedicate yourself more, because now you are anchored in something beyond circumstances. You own consistency, you own discipline, you own light. This is the turning point, when effort becomes pleasure, habit becomes rhythm, repetition becomes art, and discipline becomes freedom. You no longer react, you create. Rising early, positioning yourself, breathing deeply, aligning thought and action, they are no longer challenges but your way of being. And when the world finally takes notice, you will be so far ahead on your path that your presence can no longer be ignored. Continue, do not negotiate with comfort. Do not justify laziness. And above all, Do not underestimate the power of a single day begun well, for it is the seed of an entire future built with intent. If you have stayed with me this far, know that you are not alone. There is a legion of awakened, discreet minds choosing to win in silence, to grow away from the noise, to live with purpose while the world still sleeps. Join them. Strengthen this commitment. Subscribe to this channel, surround your mind with words, ideas, and practices that sustain your evolution. What comes next will deepen your discipline, sharpen your clarity, and accelerate your journey. Remember, your morning does not start at the clock, it begins with the decision to remain faithful to who you are becoming. And that choice, made daily, transforms the invisible into reality. If this message resonates, if it has awakened in you the resolve to act, then like this video, subscribe for more, and comment below, what will your first silent victory be tomorrow morning?